Okay, so we are continuing our series on the beginner's guide to SDL2 and CppFront, which is C++ Syntax 2 or CppFront. Okay, if you are joining in this video, you're going to need to go to GitHub Programming Rambo Beginner's Guide to SDL2 and Cpp2. You're going to need to clone this repository and then change directories to go inside of this repository and clone Herb Sutter's CppFront, and you're going to need to have that compiled. So this is the 8th video, so we will be continuing on from the 7th video. So if you're just joining, grab the code, the Cpp2 file from the 7th video, and copy it into the source directory. Okay, so this is where we left off. We have this game. Let's see if we can. We'll do the complicated one. And that is sources. Okay, this is where we ended off with a player sprite that we can move around the screen. But we have no sound at all. So this video, we're going to be loading the sound library. We're going to be opening a sound device. We're going to be loading actual sound files, music files, playing them, all of that. So let's get started on that. So this is going to be a new module for SDL. This is the mixer module. This allows us to easily load files of different file types. So we are going to initialize mixer, the same. And this one is working just like the way that the image one worked with when we were doing all that, when I was explaining about the binary and the binary or and the bit masks and all that stuff. This is the exact same idea. We have multiple different flags that we can pass in, but we are really only interested in mix in init og. We're going to be working with og files. So that's the one we're going to be using. So it's the same thing. We put in the flags, it's going to return the flags. So we're just going to use the setup that we've already used with the image one. And this one's called mix init. And what's notable about mix is that it doesn't have, all the other SDL have a capital 3 letters, but mix only has a capital M. So make sure you remember that with this one. So let's go down here to where we are just initializing SDL here. And this one, the image one, it's going to look just like this. So let's make a flag. Call it mix flags. BNI32. And it is, this is all capital because this is a macro. And it's init. And it's og. Okay, so it's going to be just like this one up here. Kind of just use this as a basis. Okay, and it's called mix, capital M, and then a lowercase ix, init, and it will be mix flags. And I explained this if you go back in the prior video where we first loaded the images. I think the video number 3 or 4. I've explained exactly what's going on with these flags and this mask and how we're checking it. So I'm not going to rehash that, but it's the exact same thing that applies here. So we are initializing the mixer, and then our error message will be mixer. This will be capital M-I-X, just like that, always capital M, lowercase ix. Okay, and to shut it down, it's the exact same thing. It's going to be mix quit, just like all the others. Okay, but in order to use this at all, we need the we need to add in the include. So this is SDL2, SDL mixer.h. Okay, so that gives us our mixer. This is opening the file, setting up the module, however you want to say it, initializing it, and quitting it. Now, with the mixer, we need to actually open an audio device as well. So we can try this real quick, and then we're going to move on to the audio device. I forgot a semicolon here. And I have one there, and that looks good. Okay. I'm just going to use the normal one, not the big long one. This is the normal one that we've been using. We need to add in one more now. We need to add in the -L mixer. Okay. And now we can just run it. We're not going to see anything, but at least we know that it loaded. It didn't give us any errors. Okay. So there's another step. I'm going to kind of delete these as I go. We have mix init. We have mix quit. Okay, we need to open an audio device and close the audio device. So this is the one that I talked about in previous videos where there is some default macros, but they're not documented on this page at all. And what it is it's, let's see if I have it written down here. It's in the header file. So if you actually read the SDL_mixer.h, the actual header file, it is in there. But they're just not documented. So there's a mix default channels. Let's see, do we have a device? So we have a frequency, we have a format, we have channels, we have chunk size. Okay, the channels, this is stereo, left and right. Do you have a mono or a stereo? The frequency is your 44,100 hertz. Yeah, here it is. It is 44. 44,100 or 48,000. That's your frequency. That's usually like the double of the highest range that the ears can hear. The format is going to be all these kind of, you can play around with all these. What I'm going to do though is I don't want to monkey around with this. I'm just going to use the safe defaults. And you can always go through and change them. You know, you could make 7.1 sound or all this stuff. I'm going to use the safe defaults that are not documented here, but what they're called is mixer default frequency, mixer default format, mixer default channels. And then for chunk size, I'm going to use 1024. It says here either a 2048 or 1024. And what it is if this number is too small, you're going to get information that's dropped out, and it's going to cause a crackling sound in your audio. It's going to be really annoying. So you'll know it if that happens. If you make the number too small, you're going to get this crackling sound. And because information is actually lost and it causes the speakers to crackle. If you make it too large, you're going to have a delay in your audio. So you want it big enough to handle all the sound comfortably, but not too big where it's making your sound more and more delayed. So the safe one that I use is 1024. You can try making it smaller until it crackles, however you want, but I'm just going to use safe defaults with these. So yeah, so that's going to be for this. Sorry, this is audio device. I'm just going to open audio right here. So for me, it's going to be frequency, it's going to be format, it's going to be channels. These are all going to be macros that I'm going to use that are built into SDL2. And then for chunk size, I'm going to use 1024. And this can fail. So that we're going to wrap this in an if statement. It's 0 on success or -1 on fail. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to grab this. And this is going to be in the initialize section. Just like right here. So it is called, this is all going to be capital now. It's going to be mix. This is like a, it's either a macro or an enum. It's something internal to SDL2, but you'll see a lot of people using these. They're just not documented very well. Mix default and C frequency. Yeah. I'll just use this frequency again and then change this to format. And there's two things about this audio when they talk about channels. One is left and right stereo channels, and the other one is the amount of sound effects it can play at one time. So we're going to have two channels, which is stereo for these channels, but there's another type of channels where it's how many sound files can be played consecutively at the same time without one ending, and that's 8 by default. So we're going to be able to play sound on top of itself, without one of them ending, for 8 different sounds at one time. After that, they'll no longer be able to be played until one of them ends. And we're not really going to worry about that. It's just going to work fine for us. So this is channels. So there is they're using channels to mean two different things in SDL2, fortunately. And then we got 1024. So this if statement, go down here, and I'm just going to take one of these and modify it. So it is still mix error, and we'll say opening audio device, or opening audio. Error opening audio, yes, okay. So we've opened the audio, we're going to have to close the audio. I'm going to put this a little bit separate than the other one, because it is slightly different. So we have the open audio, and here is the close audio. It's just a void function with no parameters. So let's mix close audio, and we'll put it like that. So now let's check it again to see if it's opening and closing the audio. Okay, I spelled something wrong, I'm sure of it. Frequency. Oh, I'm missing an L. That's what I'm doing. Where is it? I copied it in all of them. Okay, that's still good. We're not expecting anything to happen other than it works. Okay, so we have the mixer module initialized, and we're closing it down, and we're opening an audio device, we're closing that down. Now we're going to start loading some sound files. So let's look at the functions. I'm just going to close these because I have so many tabs open here. So we have two ways of loading. We have two things here. We have a chunks, what's called chunks, and music. So there's mix chunk, which is the sound effect, and we load it with mix load wave, even though we're not loading a wave file. And then we have another one called mix music, and we load it with mix load muse. So we're going to start with chunk, and then we'll get to music in a second. So this is a mix load wave. It takes the string to the file, and it gives us back a pointer to a mixed chunk on the heap. It returns null if it fails, so it's just like any of the others. So this is going to be a smart pointer. And this is mix load wave to load it, and it's going to be mix free chunk to unload it. Mix free chunk, that is the backwards of it. So I know it's a bit funny, the names don't match up, but it's mix load wave and mix free chunk. I'm going to close this. Well, I'll show you the sound files we're doing really quick. So we have Cpp2 OG and SDL OG. Okay, and then I'm going to close this sidebar. So let's go with the unique pointer. We'll call it Cpp2 sound and SDL sound. Oops. Yeah. This is a unique pointer. Go down with this one. And this is an it's a mix chunk. That's the type of pointer. And then to clean it up, it's going to be mix free chunk. Mix free chunk. And that is going to be we need the address of that. We'll set it to a null pointer. Okay, so we have we're creating our pointer. It's set to null. It's a pointer of mixed chunk type, and it's mix free chunk to release that pointer. And I'm just going to copy this because it's the exact same for the other one with just a different name. And this one's going to be called SDL sound. So we got those two pointers set up. We're going to go to load media. And we need to use that load wave. And the load wave is going to return a pointer. So it's going to be the Cpp2 sound reset, just like the other pointers above. And the function is mix load wave, all capital. And this is going to take the string to where the actual OG file is. So that is in sound. Let's just double check it. It's in sounds, and it's Cpp2 OG. So that is the sound file. Now we need to check if the pointer is good. Just grab this guy here. And this one is Cpp2 sound. Cpp2 sound. And we're going to have error loading chunk. And this is mix. It's a mix error. I'm going to copy this because the SDL sound one is going to be the exact same. SDL sound and SDL sound. So we've loaded the two sound files. Okay. Where we're going to play them is one of them will play when we hit the space bar. It'll say Cpp2. And the SDL sound will play when the SDL text bounces off the edge of the screen. When that bounces off the edge, we'll have it. So the way that we play a sound, we've loaded a chunk, we freed a chunk. Now we play a sound by this mix play channel. Now this channel is not stereo channel left and right. This channel is as in how many channels of different sound effects we can play. So it's going to return the channel if we were keeping track of that, but we're not going to keep track of that. Also, it'll be an error turns channel, yeah, or -1 if it fails to play. Now, if we're playing this and it plays too many sound effects on top of itself and it can't play another one, we don't need the game to shut down. We can just let that sound effect not play, and then when there is space, the next sound effect will play as it should. So we're not checking error in this. This is another thing that's happening in the game loop. We're not worrying about an error in this. We worry about an error when we're loading the sound, not when we're playing it inside the game loop. So we're not going to check this, and we're not going to keep track of what channel it's on. What we're going to do is here on the channel, for that option, we're going to use a -1. Should say somewhere down here. If a specific channel is -1, plays the first channel that's free. Yeah. So if we put -1 here, it's just going to pick whatever channel is available to put the chunk on that channel, and it's going to play it. So -1 on there. We got the actual sound that we want to play here. That's the pointer to our chunk. And this one is, do we want it to loop? And we don't want anything to loop here, so this is going to be 0 on the loops. So we'll grab that there. So when we hit the spacebar and we change the color, we can make it play there. So that's the place. And we're not checking this for failure. So this is I think a -1 right away. And then the chunk that we want to play. For this will be Cpp2 sound. And this needs to be unwrapped. And then we want how many times we want it to loop, and that's 0 times. So that is exactly how we're going to play the sound effect. So I'm going to just take this, and now we'll go into the update of the text update. And all of these, inside these if statements is when it bounces off the wall. So we can just put one in here, and we can change this to SDL. And I'm going to grab this, copy it. Okay. Now we should actually have sound playing. But I want to do something else first. Basically, I want, before I shut down the audio, I want to make sure there's no sounds playing. So above here, I'm going to give it space again. I want to, so we've played it with a channel. We can actually halt. Let's load music. There's halt channel. So we can halt channel. And if we put a -1 in here, it just halts all channels. So this isn't strictly necessary, but I'm just doing it the safe route where it's complete. So basically, before I close my audio device, I'm going to make sure all sound is halted. And I actually want this to be in, this needs to be in the game destructor, because I want this to halt. I want the pointers to go out of scope so that they're cleaned up, and then I want the audio device closed. Okay, so this is actually, I'm going to put this in the destructor. We don't have one yet, so we'll just make one. I'm not going to put it here, actually, because the chain of events of closing is this is initializing, game is going into scope, all the media is loaded and everything else, and the pointers are being held in game. Game goes out of scope, all the pointers are freed, and then the close happens here. So I want to stop playing the music before I release the pointers, not after. That would be backwards. So I'm going to need a destructor, and the close audio still, this is still fine afterwards. So we'll do it like that, and we'll get a destructor going on. So I'll just put it here. I'll say operator equals, and this is going to be a move this. And I'm going to put the -1 here. That's to halt all channels. So it should halt all channels first in the destructor, and then when the actual the destructor gets called before the pointers go out of scope, as far as I understand. So we've got destructor first, pointers going out of scope, and then SDL close happens and all that stuff gets shut down. So this is just going to make sure all the channels are stopped being played. Again, this isn't strictly necessary, but I'm just taking the do it the best default as possible route. So let's see if we got some sound effects. Okay, I have to listen in on the audio on this one.
Cpp2, 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 Cpp2.
It just says CppFront all the time. Okay, so it works, but it's not working correctly because it's supposed to say SDL, not CppFront. So I think we've messed up the loading here. Yeah, we did it right. So that's CppFront, but this is supposed to be SDL, and we should be loading in SDL right here. So we'll compile it again. Okay, we should hear SDL this time.
SDL, 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 SDL,
Cpp2, 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 Cpp2.
Perfect.
SDL.
Okay, so that gives us our sound effects. And we can make sure that we're not leaking any memory by using this overly complicated one. I think we need to add the mixer here. SDL2 mixer. And we are pulling it from the source directory, right? So I'm just going to compile it with this one. And then I'm going to run it and just release it right away. And it looks all good still. Okay. So let's load some music. So we've let's see, we've played a channel. We've halted the channels. Okay, so we load music with mix load muse, and same thing. We need the location of the file, and it is loading a mix music. It's a pointer to a mix music on the heap, and it's the exact same thing except it's just of type mix music. Okay, so we're going to need a pointer for this, and we just have one song that's going to play. So where's the smart pointer? So we'll just modify one of these pointers. We'll call it music. It's music, and this one's going to be mix music. And it's free music. This one's free music. Okay, that should be right. And then when we load it, media load, it's still similar to this. We'll say music, reset, and this is going to be load muse. And then the music file is, let's see what it's called. It's free software song, right? Free software song 8bit.org. Okay. Free. I believe that is written correctly. So we put music there and error loading music. And it's still a mix error. So that's loading our music up. Okay, so we play our music different. We've already done the mix free music on the pointer. So this one, when we play music, we are putting in the loops here, and I think if we put -1, it loops forever. Is it really not written here? Loops. Number of loops to play. 0 means play once and stop. So if we put -1 here, it's going to loop forever. There might be a macro too. I just don't know what it is. I just put -1. And we are going to check this one because this isn't a sound effect. This is the actual music playing. So we'll check the error on this one. So we'll just wrap it in an if statement. This is going to be played once before the game loop starts playing, and then it's just going to play forever. So we just need the pointer to the music and the loops. And we need to wrap it in an if statement. What we're going to do is we're going to put it right before the game loop happens, right here. So say if. Okay. And it was the music and the loop setting. So we need music get and then -1. That should be that. Just need to grab an error message from here somewhere. The error, we'll say playing music. This will be mix. Yeah, that should be correct. So we're going to have music playing. Now, we can pause the music. We could use, say, M to mute the music. So we can not listen to it all the time. And I'm just going to use that. I'm just going to use a toggle. I'm going to show it real quick. But I'm just grabbing this. I'm going to make another if statement under here. And we'll say M for mute or music. Okay. And I'll show you something here. So we're playing the music here. We also have a halt music. And this one, I'm going to put this in the destructor as well. I'll put it above the, doesn't really matter, I guess. I'm just putting it in order what I'm doing. So that will halt the music and halt the sound effects. Let's get rid of some of these. Got play music, halt music, and I'm not checking if that halt music fails. Okay, so we have three more here. We have mix pause music. This will pause whatever the file is playing. We have a resume music. This will let it continue playing from where it paused. And then we have another one that checks to see if the music is paused or not. Okay, so we can make a toggle with this. We could just say basically if it's paused, unpause it, else pause it. So this is just returning 1 if the music is paused and 0 otherwise. So it's a Boolean basically. So I'm just going to grab this. We'll put it in right here. Say if. So if the music is paused, we'll say resume. And then on the else, we'll say pause music. And we don't have to pass in the music file. We load the music. The music's its dedicated channel. So it's not like the sound effects. So if the music is paused, what do we return if it's paused? One returns if music is paused. So if it is paused, we resume, else we pause it. Okay. So I'm going to let the music play for a couple seconds, then I'm going to pause it if this is all working correctly. Oh, what did we got going on here? Free software song, 8-bit hog. Okay, we're looking for it in sounds, and it should be in music. So that's load media, and this should be music. It's in a music folder, not sounds folder.
SDL.
Okay, I'm going to pause it.
SDL.
CppFront,
SDL.
CppFront,
SDL.
Okay, I'm going to unpause it.
SDL.
Okay, looks like it's working perfectly. So let's check at the very top here. We haven't changed this to sound effects and music. Okay. So let's go over what we have. We loaded the mixer module, and then we initialized the mixer, which is here with the flags, the same flag style that we used before. And then we also had to open an audio, and I used all the safe defaults, except for 1024 there. There's no default one for that. And so we've opened the audio, we're closing the audio, then we're closing the mixer. Now we have these chunks. We have pointers to chunk, which is we free them with mix free chunk and the music with mix free music. So we have 3 unique pointers here. We are loading them down here in the load media. And that's mix load wave. No matter what type of audio it's just called wave. And that gives us a pointer to a chunk. And then on music, it's mix load muse. And that gives us a pointer back to a SDL or a mix music, mix underscore music type. Okay, so to play the sounds, we use mix play channel. We can specify a channel if we want, or we can use -1 to use whatever is the first available channel. And we have the actual sound that we want to use for it to play and how many times we want it to loop. It will also return the channel it's playing on or -1. Like I said, this can fail and it's not a big deal because it'll just wait till it can play again, what it'll be. If it uses up all the channels, it'll just wait till one's free, and then the next time you play effect, it will be played. So that is mix play channels. We also do mix halt channels, -1 in the destructor, and mix halt music. And we're playing the music with the right above the game loop. We're doing mix play music. We're passing in the music, and we're passing in a -1, meaning we want it to loop forever. And we're checking an error on that one. But then down here, we added a new key event for the M key, And this checks to see if we press this, it says, is it paused? If it is, resume. If it's not paused, pause it. So it's going to be one of these others, depending on what the Boolean is off of this. And I think that's about it for that. We are closing the audio file, yeah, all that, and we explained how this is working. And the very top is the correct name. And we don't have any memory leaks. We'll check it again. I'm using the more strict compiling rules here. So here's the more strict one with all the warnings turned into errors and sanitizer and everything. And when we run it, where is it? We just close it right away, and we didn't get any problems. So it should be pretty good, yeah. Okay, so I hoped you enjoyed that. We went through a lot of different things. It's not really a game as such, but it's showing you how to use each component of SDL and how you possibly can use it with this C++ Syntax 2 version from Herb Sutter, this the CppFront and Cpp2, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this, unless I could think of some other things later on that I may add to it, but I'm going to kind of leave it here for right now. So I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. Bye.